Greetings, Marvel Strike Force fans! I am Cerebro. Welcome back to Strike Time, your community update show. In case you missed the announcement, the website msf.gg is now officially part of Scopely and Boundless Entertainment. It's an amazing website built by community members that has a lot of information on Marvel Strike Force and a lot of great tools to help you plan your progression. So make sure you go check it out. All right, guys, we are back. Another fantastic interview today with the man who seems to have all the information on everything, Mr. Byron Melsack. How are you, and how was your holiday?
I'm doing great, Cerebro. Glad to be back. Holiday was a lot of fun. Spent time with the family. Went to Knott's Berry Farm. Had a blast.
So in our last video, we talked a lot about the Web Warriors. And one of the things that we announced was that Spider-Man Miles was being added to the team. The downside to that being, now the Young Avengers were down a member, right?
Correct. Once the combat team made the decision to give Miles an updated role in Web Warriors, we knew that we needed to do a follow-up, which is revamping the Young Avengers team and giving them a dedicated role in the game.
That's great. I'm glad to see that we kind of had that back to back. I know sometimes we have to wait a little while before we can kind of get updated teams when they get a little bit broken up. Before we get into the new characters, who are some of the existing characters that are going to get the updated treatment?
That's an easy one. As there's only 3 other Young Avengers in the game besides Miles, which are America Chavez, Squirrel Girl, and Miss Marvel. They're each getting a significant boost to their base stats and additional abilities that activate on war defense. We'll post those kit details over on marvelstrikeforce.com on the updates page.
Well, I think you kind of just went and let the cat out of the bag there as to where this team is going to be unlocking their full potential.
Yeah, I suppose I did, but I think it makes sense for our audience to keep this in mind while we're going over the new character kit today.
Yeah, that's a great point. Really quickly first, we announced last week that Echo is one of the new characters coming for the Young Avengers team. Who is the second new character?
Well, Cerebro, I'm glad to see that you're not wearing your tracksuit today because Kate Bishop is making her way to Marvel Strike Force.
Well, I would be surprised if most of our audience is not familiar with Kate Bishop at this point, considering the recent Hawkeye show, but maybe if you could kind of just really quickly give us a little bit of her backstory?
Sure, I can do that. So, Catherine Bishop is the daughter of a rather well-to-do family in Manhattan, New York. During the siege of New York, Kate Bishop witnessed the Avengers in battle, and she paid close attention to Hawkeye, as she was impressed with someone with no real superpowers, but was able to keep up with the likes of Thor and Iron Man. This inspired her to take Hawkeye as a role model and try to emulate him. She did eventually cross paths with Clint Barton, where she acquired his trick arrows. But I think I'll leave the rest of the story for the audience to discover on their own. After Strike Time, that is.
Yes, after the show. Well, as usual, we like to start with the passive ability for new characters, which kind of sets the tone for the rest of their kit. Could you start there, please?
Sure. So Kate Bishop's passive is called Stubborn Defiance. On spawn, she applies offense up for 2 turns to herself and all Young Avenger allies. On death of a Young Avenger, or when a Young Avenger ally drops below 50% health, attack a random enemy for 200% piercing, plus apply blind and slow. When this character drops below 50% health, gain 2 evade, gain 25% resistance for herself and Young Avenger allies. On war defense, she gains 5 charge on spawn of their initial match. This action occurs only once per war. On turn, if charged, grant 1 ability energy to herself and all Young Avenger allies, then lose 1 charge.
So on the second point there, for clarification, let's say one of the Young Avengers had more than 50% health, and they just took like a really big shot, say from like Death Pool, and went from 60% of their health to 0. Does that trigger twice, or does it only trigger once?
She would attack twice, and both conditions were met.
Okay, so once for the 50, for going below 50, and then once for being knocked out. All right, let's move on to her ultimate ability, please.
So her ultimate is called Empty the Quiver. Attacks all enemies for 300% piercing damage. If she is charged, she applies blind for 2 turns to the enemy with the highest damage, and 2 random negative effects for 2 turns to every other enemy from this list. Defense down, disrupted, offense down, and slow. She then loses a charge. However, on war defense, she doesn't lose a charge. She gains 100% extra focus for this attack. She applies speed up for 2 turns to herself and all Young Avenger allies, and this attack cannot be dodged or counterattacked.
On the third point there, it says that she can apply blind for 2 turns. If I'm remembering correctly, don't most characters in the game only apply blind for 1 turn?
Yeah, it's because blind is very powerful. This is, I think, probably one of the few characters that can pull this off without some sort of combo. This has special targeting attached to it. So if there's an enemy character that has taunt, this will bypass that.
Well, that's a double whammy, a double whammy.
Yeah, so if there's an enemy character that likes to hide behind a lot of taunts, but is very high damage dealer, say someone like Silver Surfer, she can reliably get this blind off.
And moving on down the list to her special ability.
So her special is called Trick Arrows. She attacks the primary and adjacent target for 275% damage. She flips 3 positive effects on each target to negative effects. If she is charged, she applies offense up for 2 turns to herself and all Young Avenger allies. If this character does not have charge, fills speed bar by 75% plus gain charge, and this attack cannot be dodged.
Okay, so the point where it says that if she does not have charged, she gains a bunch of speed bar, is that kind of a counterbalance to the part in her passive where it states that she only gains a bunch of stacks of charge like once per war? As in, like, does that kind of counteract if a player would send in like a super weak team against them just to try and clear all of those initial charges off of her?
That is part of the reason, yes. We wanted to vary the threat that Kate Bishop provides while on war defense. For the first several turns, she'll be frequently using her ultimate and applying negative effects to the enemy team. But because she can't gain charge if she already has it, she'll eventually run out. After that, she'll be getting charge and speed bar, but consume the charge on her turn to give her team ability energy. So at the start of the match, she'll be blanking the enemy with negative effects, but at the end of the match, she'll be rapidly attacking and clearing. Because of that, a weak squad would probably be defeated before all 5 charged are used. So caution should be exercised when considering who you want to send to attack her.
And finally, we have her basic ability. Please run that down for us.
Sure. So it's called Acrobatic Archer. She attacks the primary target for 225% piercing, and she clears 2 random positive effects. On crit, she will chain to 1 adjacent enemy for 225% piercing damage, also clearing 2 random positive effects from them. On war defense, she applies taunt to each of these attacks. If she has charge, she gains plus 25% crit chance, and this attack cannot be dodged or blocked.
So being that this is a primarily war defense team where they're going to get the most bang for their buck, how is fighting this team going to be different than some of the other war defense teams that we've introduced somewhat recently, like Heroes for Hire?
It should be a significantly different experience. When fighting Heroes for Hire, it can be hard to tell how much progress you're making when fighting them because of all the revives and healing going on. While Young Avengers are certainly powerful, the experience in battling them should be more straightforward, and they don't do quite as much burst damage.
So we've established Young Avengers, great on war defense. Is there any other game modes where you could possibly see Kate Bishop, Echo, and the other Young Avengers shining?
While the primary goal was to make the Young Avengers a top-tier war defense team, the fact that they are a full team with synergies would make them a welcome addition to your Blitz roster. Additionally, Kate Bishop being a tech character would be useful if you wanted to help fill out your tech raid team.
Oh, great. I know players have been asking for more tech characters lately, so awesome. All right, I have to ask this question because I know somebody in the comments is going to ask this if I don't ask it right now. Considering the big success of the recent Hawkeye show, Is it anticipated that we might see some updates or synergy with Hawkeye to go along with Kate Bishop in the future?
While Kate Bishop doesn't have any direct callouts to Hawkeye in this release, Marvel Strike Force has a record of not ignoring the favorite characters. So we'll see.
That idea is still floating around in your guys' collective conscience.
We haven't forgotten about Hawkeye.
Fantastic. All right, getting back to Kate specifically, in your testing, which ISO 8s are you guys favoring when using her?
Skirmisher works with other Young Avenger characters, and because of how powerful her basic is, Striker pairs very well with Kate Bishop. Alternatively, Raider would help you keep better control of the battlefield by allowing her to crit more often to make her bonus attack on her basic more reliable. So both Striker and Raider are good options for Kate Bishop.
And the big question, when are we going to see and be able to unlock Kate Bishop for our rosters?
She's coming in the next major version release, 5.10. So I would say within the next few weeks.
All right, Byron, thank you so much for stopping by yet again. I know you're a very busy man and really appreciate all of your insights.
Well, Cerebral, I always enjoy coming on to Strike Time and spending time with you and the rest of everyone who plays Marvel Strike Force.
And I know that the players really appreciate it too. Thanks a lot. Now let's check in on some submissions over on the official Marvel Strike Force Discord server. Vav Kulaka submitted his rendition of Electro with the classic green and yellow color scheme and wicked electricity effects. I hope Electro remembered to take his phone and his wallet out of his pockets before he got all charged up, or they're gonna be a little crispy. Major Dave went old school, breaking out the MS Paint to illustrate his tribute to Mr. Sinister, who honestly kind of looks like it was ripped right out of a 90s arcade game. Nobody's been able to clone Mr. Sinister's fashion sense, let me tell you. Ninja 9 broke out the traditional pen and paper to sketch this dynamic scene of Hulk and Spider-Man leaping into action. I particularly like Hulk's haircut here. It's got that whole, I just rolled out of bed, but I'm really feeling myself today kind of vibe. Swaggy Thesaurus, love that name by the way, took this picture of the Jubilee statue, which hey, I have that one, and decided to do his own version of a paint over. I think I'm gonna have to print that one out and put it right on the refrigerator. And it just wouldn't feel right to overlook another great submission by Mr. Pie, this time expressing his sincere partiality toward Dormammu. It's a good thing that Earth doesn't have a delicious chocolate center, or otherwise we might really be in trouble. And finally, Magnetron123 submitted this awesome picture of a Winter Soldier cosplay. I have to admit, I actually kind of like the long hair. I think it goes well with the costume. Something to consider in the future, Marvel. Thank you guys so much for watching. It's gonna be an awesome 2022. Make sure you check in often for all the latest news and updates about Marvel Strike Force. We'll see you guys next time. Kate Bishop figure expected arrival date March 2022. How about war?